So we've worked in disasters all over the world, and there are two phrases that we've coined from that. One is the superhero curse, and the other is the expectation wagon. So the superhero curse, that is when you are competent and you care deeply about what you are doing, and people see both those things, and all of a sudden you're doing more and more and more. And you also identify with being that person who just takes on more and achieves more, and you find yourself with this superhero curse following you around. The other one is the expectation wagon, and that is in our general lives we have all sorts of expectations of ourselves and expectations on us. But in times of stress, uncertainty, disruption, these expectations just expand and expand and expand to the point where we can be worn so thin we are no longer very good at anything we want to achieve. And that also doesn't feel good. So it's about how do we ditch that expectation wagon and manage that superhero curse.
So after the Christchurch earthquakes, it's one of those situations where I was impacted along with my family, and I was working to really support those that were impacted in a disaster recovery role that came with a huge amount of pressure. Looking after a team of volunteers, looking after a team of staff, and really developing and rolling out some support programs for people impacted. So there was a lot going on. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of learning that comes with that. And for me, there was learning around two things, and they're related. The first is what we've called the superhero curse. There's a way in which you just keep attracting more when you show yourself to be capable. And so the more that you do and the more that you achieve, the more that you attract. And it became this overpowering burden, of not being able to say no and feeling like everything relied on me. Yeah, which is very much the martyr complex as well. So just being aware that actually we can attract more and more and more, and then really be weighted under all of these expectations, the superhero curse. So one of the greatest learning in my area of growth through this time was really learning how to ditch the expectation wagon. The realization that I came to, and it took me some time, and it seems silly because it's so obvious, but that's often the way, is the realization that your time and energy really is finite. You just can't keep stretching yourself thin over everything. And if your time and energy is finite, then really getting intentional about prioritizing where you put those. So if you want to have really good impact, you want to do things that are helpful for others, you want to make sure that you're there for your family as well, then where is it that you most want to prioritize where you put that time and that energy? That takes saying no and ditching the expectation wagon to others. It's not a selfish thing, because in the areas that you really do want to have a positive impact and help out, you will be more effective. That was my biggest learning. Took me a long time to get to, but it's such an important one.
So there are some tips and some tricks for how to deal with the superhero curse and ditch that expectation wagon. So the first thing is, a lot of us have a to-do list. To go through that to-do list with these ideas in mind and really delegate or cross off anything that is absolutely not essential right now. The other thing you can do to help manage the chaos is to triage what you have to do, and to be really intentional about the things that have to be done right now, the things that can wait, and the things that actually aren't that important or may solve themselves. So get really intentional about that. Something that a lot of us find hard to do is to say no. This is especially when everything feels urgent, and you can see there are a lot of needs in the community or within your team. The trick is, though, that saying no is a bit like a muscle that you need to exercise so it becomes stronger, so that you can say yes to the things that you are really good at, really committed to, and that are really urgent, and that you can give them your best. Because the thing is, if you try and be all things to all people all the time, you can no longer give or be your best, and that doesn't feel good either.